Blues in the Night, by Jennifer Jenkinson. Episode 1. It was a bright sunny afternoon, with a fresh breeze blowing from the northeast. The small sloop was making a series of very short tacking maneuvers as it made its way gingerly up the narrow channel. The forest marched down the steep rocky hillsides to abruptly meet the sea below on both shores. The tiny but sturdy craft was tossed precariously by the rip tides created in the close waterway. The sole occupant reset her grip on the tiller and brought the sloop around in. Yet another tack headed toward a little niche in the eastern shoreline. She was kneeling in the boat's compact cockpit, watching carefully ahead for any telltale clues on the water. That dangerous rocks lay just out of sight below the surface. She held her course on a starboard tack until she was just past a rocky spur, which broke the forest cover and actually spilled over into the sea. When she was about 80 yards from the shoreline, she abruptly swung the boat head to the wind, bringing it to an almost dead stop in the water. After loosing the sheets on both her jib and mainsails, she quickly scrambled to the bow and let her anchor line out till she felt the anchor touch bottom. She then expertly continued to pay out enough of the line to properly set the anchor, allowing for both safe swinging room, as the wind might shift, and the expected change of depth, as the tides came and went. She had been so occupied with the business of sailing her small sloop that she had not noticed that she had an audience. A tall, slim young man in blue jeans, t-shirt and black leather, bomber-style jacket was sitting on the rocky spur, smiling with open admiration at the sailing skill of the woman skipper on the neat little sloop. As she stood from securing the anchor and started to lower and tie down her sails, he arose and quickly walked back up into the trees behind him, so she never knew that her arrival had been noted. When the sloop was secured to her satisfaction, Catherine went below and put a tiny kettle on the single burner in the diminutive galley. As she waited for the water to boil, she pulled a thick dog-eared ring binder out of a shelf to the left of the companionway and opened it to the last entry. This book served a dual purpose, as a ship's log and personal journal. She noted her time of arrival and location of the tiny sheltered anchorage, the weather, which was close to perfection for a sailor, and a personal note that this seemed a great spot in which to write and create. Catherine was just past her 32nd birthday, short of stature, with what she self-deprecatingly called a well-rounded figure. She had short-cropped, almost boyish auburn hair and blue-gray eyes. When not working at her research position at a Vancouver newspaper, she was usually to be found out on her tiny sailboat, or bent over a computer keyboard, creating either the poetry or short stories that her abundant imagination thrived on. Now she had the best of both pursuits, as she'd recently purchased a new laptop that allowed her to enjoy both leisures at once. When the kettle had boiled, Catherine made a large mug of steaming hot tea, and taking the laptop with her, went back on deck. She made herself a comfortable workspace on the foredeck with her back leaning against a sail bag, which in turn was propped against the mast. Before starting, she relaxed with the tea and surveyed her temporary neighborhood. The beaches were quite narrow strands, mere ribbons of sand, between the water and the forest. There were a couple of other rock spurs which jutted into the channel, but the one she was to the lee of seemed to be the largest, and the only one which gave sufficient shelter to provide the one craft-size anchorage in which she lay. At first glance, the hillsides looked totally devoid of settlement. But when she looked more closely, she spotted at least 4 widely separated structures perched on the slopes and almost hidden by the forest cover.